When it comes to pointing the blame, everyone's got something to say. Screaming for change, but staying the same, expecting the cycle to break. I don't want your.
The sounds of 10 years is The Optimist. Bring us in to the Broadhurst-Watkins Sports Report.
Sports in black and white.
And before we go any further, I'm Harry, he's Erik, but before we go any further, and this is the part where I get serious, tonight's episode of the Broadhurst-Watkins Sports Report is dedicated to the memory of Carol Hagan. Robert, our best wishes are with you and your family, brother. Stay strong. All right. Again, I'm Harry Broadhurst. He's Erik Watkins. This is the Broadhurst-Watkins Sports Report, a presentation of the Not a Network podcast. You can find us at Not a Network Pods on Twitter, twitch.tv/AWP podcasts, working on being changed, and by searching for the Not a Network podcasts on YouTube, or by specifically searching for the Broadhurst-Watkins Sports Report.
We know the thing about channels on YouTube having handles. Trust me, that's going to be sorted afterwards.
It's a process, folks. KLCZ.com, 88.9 if you're in the Lewiston, Clarksville area.
Yep, Lewiston, Idaho, Clarkston, Washington, in that area thereabouts.
Or by searching for the R&R Sports Report on Facebook. Again, Robert, our best are with you and your family. All right. Little bit of a downer note to start on, but I feel like this at least be something that could hopefully make Robert laugh a little bit, bring a little bit of joy in a troubling time. I mean, after all, if there's one thing we're known for, it is our shtick around here, and we have nothing to stick.
But shtick itself.
Speaking of Chirons, let's start the show how we always do. It's time for Studs and Duds. Erik.
Mm-hmm.
So I was looking at our football predictions this year. And I know I haven't done the best so far. I'm aware that I am sub 500 on the season. I'm working on that. But I seem to recall a specific co-host, that one right there, giving me shit about a certain Cincinnati versus Atlanta pick last week.
Yeah. Whoops.
481 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions on 34 of 42. I'd say Joe Burrow had himself a game.
Well, I mean, when you throw 3 touchdown passes in a little more than a quarter, and the fact that you're upwards of 300 yards by halftime. Really, Atlanta? Really, Atlanta?
So what you're saying is Joe Burrow had himself a half a game and then kind of coasted the rest of the way.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, when you're up 21-0, that happens.
They did make it interesting. They cut it to 21-10 at one point.
21-10, and then a little bit closer at one point, but
Final score, Cincinnati 35-17, as the Bungles are tied with the Ravens at 4-3 atop of the AFC North. You know what the problem is? The North divisions are doing just fine. The South divisions just fucking suck.
Well, I mean, the North divisions are at least one of them's doing somewhat okay. The other's kind of decent. As we have the Ravens playing tonight, currently down 10-3 to the Bucks at the start of the third quarter.
14 minutes and 27 seconds left in the third quarter. Halftime has just concluded as we get back into the second half, our traditional go time here for BWSR.
Speaking of those very same pickems, even with that pick, even with that debacle, I was in a 3-way tie going deep into Sunday's games. Then Seattle happened. Specifically, Kenneth Walker III.
Oh, and fuck Geno Smith on general principle this season, apparently.
Yeah, again, not wrong.
Are you aware that somebody taught him how to football?
I don't know what it is. Week to week to week.
It's Pete Carroll, man. He's a quarterback whisperer.
Yeah, but the problem is, even with Geno Smith, it's like he's an altered carbon. He gets his new sleeve every week. Sometimes he's great. Sometimes he's god-awful. You never know what you're going to get.
But you do know what you're going to get from Seattle is Kenneth Walker III, formerly of Michigan State.
Oh, talk about someone who really had themselves a day. I'm going back and looking up the exact statistics, but needless to say, I was good with that, even though I picked the Chargers. That pick wound up costing me the week. 23 carries, 167 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I'll give you full credit for that one, even though I ain't happy about it.
Schmucks. I also took the Chargers.
This close. I actually wound up finishing third thanks to ties. So, yeah. But
I had a chance until Sunday and Monday Night Football fucked me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, by that time, especially since, you picked New Orleans and Indianapolis.
To be fair, that New Orleans game was a lot closer than people probably thought it was going to be.
This is true.
42-34 on a Thursday night shootout. We've gone back to Thursday night fuck this week.
For the most part, but we did get a touchdown, which is a plus.
We did. A Leonard Fournette touchdown, no less.
Wasn't going to include that part, but okay.
That's that whole former Jaguar thing again, isn't it?
Especially with the trades that we're making, while good ones, but still hurts.
Let's switch over to the opposite side of that, shall we? Let's talk duds.
Yeah. Question.
Answer, perhaps.
How often is it that a team gives up 4 safeties in a single game?
What? How did I miss this?
Yeah, I found this in going through some of the highlights in the different places where I'm at. Weber State, FCS team.
Wildcats, Big Sky.
Their special teams weren't that special.
They were special, just with another word at the end of it.
Yeah, not 1, not 2, not 3. Yes, as JTN 2002, John, you get the drill. A record 4 safeties conceded in that single game. Bad snaps, bad field position, bad everything. Yeah.
Someone's special teams coordinator is fired.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of getting fired, Erik, if you had one chance, one opportunity to capture everything you ever wanted, being married to Gisele Bündchen, would you take that or would you let it slip?
I mean, especially Gisele now, while not quite at her peak, yeah, I would lose it.
Instead, would you rather play for a sub-500 football team that just lost to 1-5 Carolina, quarterbacked by PJ Walker?
Would have been XFL MVP, PJ Walker.
Are you telling me to put some respect on his name?
Damn right.
All right. Well, you know who else can put some respect on his name? The Tampa Bay Lolcaneers. As a Buffalo Bills fan, I am an incredibly bitter and petty person at times.
But
Seeing Tom Brady sub 500 7 games into a football season, it warms the cockles of my heart. I said cockles, people, cockles. Co-host.
I mean, okay. Yes, even though they're technically still in first place in
that division is ass.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I mean,
I took the ass right out of your. Never mind. Family show.
Look, I am going to talk about things that may or may not have transpired earlier this week.
Archer.
Monday.
Hey, phrase it.
Thank you.
Yeah, even he's got the most passes per touchdown attempt in his career.
They showed that stat at the beginning of Thursday Night Football, actually. It's like 17 passes per touchdown this season.
Try 37.
Oh, 30. No, it was 17.7 points per game through 7 games. That's it.
Fewest air yards per pass at 7.7 per attempt this season. I mean, this is what happens when you want to be the modern-day George Blanda.
Now, the difference is Blanda was a kicker and barely saw the field for most of the end of his career.
Nah, he still
played a little bit of quarterback, but not as much as he did during his prime playing days.
That's fair.
So, yeah, my dud for the week are Tampa Bay losing to 1-5 Carolina. They are currently up, as Erik said, 10-3 here in the third quarter of Thursday Night Football. However, again, as a Bills fan, seeing Brady sub 500, it warms my evil little heart.
I mean, at the very least, there's some sort of defense that matters. It's 10-3 instead of, 43-38. Seriously, Weber State, what is the hell is going on in Utah?
That feels like that would be an NFL scoregami at 43-38.
I think it would be.
NFL_scoregami on Twitter. Make sure we get that number. Make sure we get that Twitter handle correct. Highly recommended. Erik's going to go check to see if that would be a scoregami or not. Meanwhile, we are going to move forward on this particular podcast. And so that happened. All right. So I have to start with a story that has a humongous level of irony to me, because we teased last week that we would talk more about it this week.
Mm-hmm.
The plan has apparently been put in place to remove Daniel Snyder as the owner of the Washington Redacteds.
Yay!
And may I just say, me and football fans all over the words, 3 simple words: about fucking time. More to the point, the person that says that he would be one of the first person to co-sign the decision to get rid of Snyder is Indianapolis Colts owner Jim Irsay. Jim Irsay, of course, Captain Drunk Driver himself.
Not just Captain Drunk Driver himself. Remember, the Irsay name is still a very, very bitter 4-letter word in the minds of Baltimore football fans.
You mean the Midnight Move?
1984. You've never seen a Mayflower truck around that part of the country since.
You do realize that, like, Irsay is to Baltimore what Modell was to Cleveland?
Pretty much.
It's kind of an apt comparison.
It's a very apt comparison.
Modell is no longer with us. I will refrain from speaking ill of the dead.
All I'm saying is, as a Bills fan, had he not pulled that stunt, you wouldn't have had to worry about Bill Belichick in the AFC East.
Again, I will refrain from speaking ill of the dead. That said, it did start a love affair between Bills and Browns fans. Have I ever told you that story?
Mm-mm.
Ralph Wilson, when the Browns moved to Baltimore,
Mm-hmm.
Ralph Wilson said that any Cleveland Browns season ticket holder would be admitted for free to a Bills game of their choice to make up for their loss of a football franchise.
Now, see, why can't more owners be as badass as him? I mean, seriously.
And to quote what Glenn Smith said in our W2M Sports Chat Facebook thread, yeah, Ralph Wilson field at whatever corporate sponsorship they want to give it.
I completely agree. Now, it's going to be some very swanky digs and going to be a good sponsor, but that man's name has to stick around in some form or fashion.
So we've seen NBA franchises taken away twice now.
Yep.
Donald Sterling with the Clippers, and just recently the Phoenix Suns situation, where it's not so much taken away, but a forced sale. Marge Schott was more or less forced out of Cincinnati, the Reds.
Mm-hmm.
Al Davis fought the NFL for decades, and Al Davis only stopped fighting the NFL when Al Davis turned over the franchise to his sons. George Steinbrenner's fought the MLB for decades and has basically turned over the franchise recently to his sons. I don't believe we've ever seen an NFL owner forced to step down before.
Not necessarily forced. You could go back in the days, say the 60s, when Washington was still under a different bit of turmoil, at a bit of a different time, where, at old RFK Stadium for a while, they were still using Whistling Dixie as one of their songs from the marching band. I will leave that right there where it is. But even then, Roselle was like, turn it down and it'll be okay.
Moderately overt racism.
I mean, they were the southernmost NFL franchise at the time, oddly enough.
We have been calling for this for 4 years, 5 years. How long have we been doing this now?
5, just about 6, really.
Yeah. We've been calling for Daniel Snyder to get the fuck out for 6 years. It needs to have happened already. It is time that these NFL owners grow a spine and decide that this guy is a cancer on the franchise that is the National Football League.
Well, see, about NFL owners growing spines and potential cancers on the league. Segue.
Dun, dun, dun. Dramatic doggo.
So, as we all know, your favorite commissioner and mine, Roger Goodell, he's had a bit of a tenured career in his position.
Yeah, tenured, not good.
Made a lot of money for a lot of people, including himself. And just like with players, when it comes to a contract year, there's at times a little bit of a battle. Well, in a surprising 31-1 vote, negotiations have started on Roger Goodell's contract. Why would you say a 31-1 vote is surprising, though?
Who is the one? I'm assuming this has something to do with who the one dissenter is.
And what happened? The Shadow Commissioner himself, as I have dubbed him over many years, Jerry Jones.
Of course.
He himself said, look, y'all are basing his figures and his $50 million a year salary based upon a lot of these metrics. Oh,
the most overpaid man in America. Continue.
You're basing all that kind of money and giving him this and making these deals on metrics, yet y'all aren't really ready to define what these metrics are, and they're incredibly vague. I have to say, in reading those details, I side with the man. But not everybody does. In one particular situation, he was for once not on vacation in Florida, not getting married and having former quarterbacks attend. Robert Kraft, he decided, hey, Jerry, what are you doing? There was rumors of a bit of a miniature kerfuffle, a mini brouhaha, if you will.
A double $5 word reference. Nice.
Jerry Jones looked at Robert Kraft square, and in that old Southern drawl just said, "Don't fuck with me."
He then followed up with, "How about them Cowboys?"
And then he followed that up with another "Don't mess with me." So there's a little bit of dissension in the realm. And even though there's talks of only a 2-year deal for Goodell before he finally rides off into the sunset, thus paving the way for an 18-game schedule under the next commissioner, whomever it may be, it's going to be a little bit to actually watch out for.
I hereby put my vote in for Keith Olbermann.
You know,
Bob Costas also acceptable.
I would definitely say Costas, because I feel with Olbermann, he would definitely be better suited to take Manfred's job.
Real quick, Lamar Jackson to Kenyon Drake from 5 yards out. Baltimore has tied the game at 10. We have just over 9 minutes, according to the ESPN.com update, left in the game. I'm sure it's a little bit less than 9 at this point now. 7 minutes and 5 seconds left in the third quarter as Tampa Bay punts here back to Baltimore. 10-10 here on your Thursday Night Football update. Continue.
I am so glad I actually picked Drake as one of my running backs in my Fantasia DFS. Life is good. So,
is that like a best ball gimmick or is that one of those individual player per week fantasy deals?
Yeah, your individual player per week, your daily fantasy on a new app.
Like a DraftKings kind of deal.
Exactly. Your DraftKings, your FanDuel.
Just remember, if you bet, though, please gamble responsibly. 21 means 21.
God damn it!
Obey all local, state, and federal gambling laws. Please gamble responsibly. If you or anybody you know has a problem, please consult the number below, 1-800-522-4700.
And believe me, we'll be talking about Bovada later on tonight over most of these not a network podcast stations.
Indeed, as the non-sports edition of the Broadhurst-Watkins Sports Report,
Sports in Black and White,
gets preempted this week to bring you bonus coverage of parallel convergence with Worlds, the semifinals. League of Legends Worlds, the semifinals. There you go. Chill.
Well,
I can't be bought, Eric, but I can damn sure be rented.
Exactly. And even just like shtick, we have nothing to shill but shill itself.
Cherry Coca-Cola tonight.
Remember, folks, send all sponsorship inquiries to podcasts@AmericanWhammy.com. But, you know, if you're not a big fan, you can send all hate mail to one Harry Broadhurst at HEBTEagle on Twitter or at HEBTEagle@yahoo.com.
When did y'all first start throwing up the, screw it. Come at me, motherfuckers. Anyways. All right. So, yeah, the sooner we get rid of Goodell, the better.
True.
The sooner we get rid of Manfred, the better.
True.
The sooner we get rid of Bettman, the better.
I mean, honestly, the only commissioner of the Big Four I see worth keeping is Adam
David-
Silver.
Oh yeah, Adam Silver, who took over for David Stern.
Mm-hmm.
And even he's questionable at times.
I mean, if I were to actually say, hey, who is your top 5 that you want to replace? I mean, I would put Don Garber above him on that list. Dumbass World Cup style MLS playoff format, mother.
And even though he's retiring, just on general principle, fuck Mark Emmert.
Yeah, that.
Go ahead. You know you want to.
Mark Emmert just. And the whole lot of you in Indianapolis with them.
All right, so those are our NFL stories, ironically kind of tied together. Erik, I'm going to let you do your college show that happened first, just because mine's going to kind of end things on a somber note this week for STH, and I want to do that last.
True, and I've got to go ahead, and I've got to find a thing that a certain producer claims that he were to have added. You know what? That mutter standards and practices, listen and muttering. That mutter didn't even. Oh, I swear if I don't find it. Ah, here we go.
We don't need it yet. I'm going last.
Oh no, we do need it because, like I said, ours tie together.
So you have one with a situation as well? All right, well then I guess we're going to go ahead and cue it. All right, you guys know we like to have fun here on the Broadhurst-Watkins Sports Report, but unfortunately we're going to have to get a little bit more serious right now. The Mountain West has been the butt of many jokes here on the show. It's been a frequent visitor on the bottom 10, with all due apologies to both Steve Harveys. But this particular one is not a bottom 10 moment. This particular instance is a human tragedy. The New Mexico State-San Jose State game from this past Saturday was postponed due to the image that you see on your screen right now. Camden McWright, running back for San Jose State, was on an electric scooter on Friday morning and was struck by a bus. He was pronounced dead at the scene. Both schools mutually agreed to postpone the game till later in the season in order to honor the memory of Mr. McWright, and as well to allow the family a chance to grieve and the players a chance to grieve as well. On behalf of the Broadhurst-Watkins Sports Report, as well as the Not a Network itself in general, our sincerest condolences to Mr. McWright's family, and a well done to both schools for taking the time to allow the life appreciation for Mr. McWright by postponing the game.
I mean, when you have tragic moments like this, even for players who weren't really well known or as heralded, it's always nice to know that you have the schools to put the athletes first and saying, hey, even though he was one of many, he was still one of us. And I do applaud the decision for both schools to postpone the game so they could really honor his memory. But unfortunately, he was not alone. Another, somewhat of the jokes in Mississippi State, especially with Mike Leach, he was one of the first to honor the memory after the tragic sudden passing of walk-on Sam Westmoreland. His funeral will be Friday. Very few details, unfortunately, have been thus far released about his cause of death. No foul play suspected, but regardless, at someone at just the age of 18, it is still incredibly sad. So we here, along with Camden McWright and his family, We also will offer our condolences and our respect to Sam Westmoreland's family, also going through a tragic time of their own.
On behalf of everyone here at the Not a Network, rest easy, young men. Go rest high upon that mountain. Your journey here is done.
Never gets easier. It never gets easier.
Yeah, it's like the shittiest part about doing a show like this, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Just, I mean, tragedy is inevitable, but two young men at the prime of their lives. You mentioned what Westmoreland was 19. Camden McWright was 18.
Oh yeah, they were both 18.
Oh, Westmoreland was 18 as well. It says here that Westmoreland was 19.
Huh. I originally read 18. My mistake.
Oh no, you are correct. He would have turned 19 a couple of days. Westmoreland would have turned 19 a couple of days later. October 21st was his birthday. So yeah, just a few days before turning 19. There is no good way to transition from that, so I'm not even going to try. Instead, we're just going to move forward right into I'm a Survivor.
And I know, yes, we've got a little bit of a back and forth. Yes, John, we know you won last week's picks, even though you actually didn't win last week's picks. Thank you very much.
Didn't Brian win him on a tiebreaker?
It was big deal the whole time.
I hate run-ins.
Thank you. Supposed standards and practices. And no,
I was summoned. Why did I get summoned?
You were not summoned. Go away.
I was summoned, and then you had to go and do that whole hit me right in the field segment, and now I can't even yell at you, so I'm gonna be grumpy and leave. Bye.
The only reason you were summoned is because the thing that I was looking for I couldn't find right away, but I eventually found it.
He had a hard time finding the new Boys to Men video that we're going with for our tragedy segments.
Yes, but I was able to find it. You put it in the right spot, and because of this whole last few seconds.
Hey, phrase it.
To answer your question, Toby, kind of, sort of ish, I guess. We haven't done our picks yet, if that's what you're asking.
No, because we've got two big rivalries, and then a more, well, I can't even say a more legit one because of both schools. Yeah, no.
That particular game we're not discussing. The other big game in the Big Ten we will here in a few moments.
Not to mention this one is naturally also going to be talked about.
I don't feel the need to talk about that game. Okay, we'll get to that when we pour one out for the homers in just a few moments.
And not just pour one out for the homers. Albert, I'm sorry, but again,
special guest run in by Albert Gator there real quick. All right. So let's go into I'm a Survivor for the week. I actually got one right finally.
Yay!
It took me most of the season. Let's see if I can get two in a row. Hold on, allow me to go to our page. Did I move that into this week's prediction page, or did I leave that over in the other one? I think I might have left it in the other page.
No, wait, hold on.
I know I did. I moved it to Survivor as well.
Yep, you did.
Okay, cool. Give me the Dallas Cowboys over the Chicago Bears is my Survivor pick.
Okay. I have said many a times that if I am attending this team in person at the stadium, it's bad luck. However, I am not attending this game in person. even with the exchange rate as good as it is, thank you, Liz Truss, for wrecking the economy, for making travel cheaper. Best of luck, Rishi Sunak, in your premiership.
Real quick, a likely occurrence. Literally. Touchdown from Baltimore. Jackson to likely. Justin Tucker adds the extra point. 17-10 Ravens. 5 seconds left in the third quarter.
Come on, Baltimore. Get me back to another 1-0 start. So for this one, and yes, the Jaguars are at home in London, especially this week. Sorry, Russell. You couldn't cook on your stoves in anything here. The ones that use the metric system across the pond are going to be even worse. Go big or go homer. Definitely going homer with this pick. Give me the Jaguars as my survivor.
As we are wont to do on this podcast. Mm-hmm. See, that's me busting out the $5 words. Want. Mm-hmm. You know what, Eric? Perfect transition into pouring one out for the homers. So, Jaguars, you say. Fun fact, if you look at our predictions pool, our NFL prediction sheet for the week, I also picked Jacksonville. So you're probably screwed.
Okay. To be fair, when you and I agree on games, we're not that bad. And when it's a 4-way unanimous sort of a situation, which thankfully this one isn't, and speaking to a certain, person out there in the ether who is choosing to remain disembodied in a different form, yeah. You may want to go ahead and get the rest of those picks into as the week progresses. Just saying. We were 1 yard short. 1 yard. You couldn't have thrown that about 2 yards farther to Christian Kirk. All
right. But here's the thing. If you would have told me that you guys, if I would have told you going into that game that Jacksonville was going to keep it that close against the Giants, would you have accepted that going in, knowing what the Giants' record coming into that game was?
I would have. That's why I'm not terribly disappointed. The team was back on track offensively. We controlled the turnovers. We made some great strides at getting some pressure defensively. We're kind of getting back to the form that we had the first couple of weeks of the season. So I'm not terribly mad, but it's still a little bit disappointing. And even Trevor Lawrence has expressed the disappointment and other players' disappointment, knowing that they're always that close and they're getting that close, but not cashing in on the W's just yet.
Real quick, we are on upset alert in college football. Virginia Tech leads North Carolina State 21-16, 12 minutes left in the fourth quarter.
That's
a thing.
It's a thing, and it's why ACC? Just why? Why this year?
All right, give me one quick second here. All right, we'll preview your game here. You guys were on a bye last week, weren't you? You weren't on a bye?
No.
Oh, wait, was last week the Duke game?
Yes.
Oh, so then the bye was 2 weeks ago. So you got your wish in terms of, are you serious? You went big or went anti-homer there, and you said that you didn't see you guys covering 9 points against Duke. Yeah, not only did you not cover 9 points against Duke, Duke kind of whooped your ass. 45-21 Blue Devils. So let's look at the positives here, okay?
Okay.
Mario Cristobal is the man who turned around the Oregon franchise once Chip Kelly bolted.
Yes.
Mario Cristobal has 2 Pac-12 titles and a National College Football Playoff appearance under his belt.
He does.
Mario Cristobal does not have his players at the University of Miami right now.
Not all of them, no. He's been doing a good job in the transfer portal, and that's part of the thing that's going around. You can see Crystal Ball's guys competing versus Manny Diaz's guys.
You also just flipped a prospective Gator recruit, 5-star cornerback, over to the University of Miami as well for next season.
Bringing back the state of Miami. I hope we can keep that up.
It is a 12:30 p.m. kickoff on Saturday, which is basically code for go fuck yourselves.
Naturally.
As you guys are at the University of Virginia.
A battle of 2 and 5 teams. We're 2-point favorites on the road. Expectations are minimal. I really am approaching this like I approached the Virginia Tech game. Just win, baby. Get a dub. Go back to 500. That's all that would really matter right now. At least keep alive respectable bowl eligibility in Crystal Ball's year 0. And I'm good with that. Yes, I know we were favorites to win the Coastal. Yes, I know 2/3 of the ACC is in shambles, but I am not delusional. It's a week-by-week thing for me right now.
So the 2 words that I would best describe your situation with the Canes this week are casual optimism.
Mm-hmm. It should be winnable. I hope winnable, and I'm good with a win, and then we can dissect everything else because we've got issues with the Van Dyke, issues with the offensive coordinator, and also Canes fans. Go back to what I said about Crystal Ball and what Harry said about all of his accomplishments. It's year 0. Calm down. There is a lot to unpack with the last several coaches and what they've done. So chill out a little bit, because we get rid of him, then what?
To paraphrase Seinfeld, CYST. Calm your spectacular titties. Eric's lost. We've lost.
Sorry, flashback to a Monday. Anyway.
I thought if anybody would appreciate that particular reference, Mr. Watkins, it would be you.
Always appreciated.
Oh, by the way, the one that I sent you before, I found her Instagram. I'll have to hook you up with that later. Kid in the candy store. All right. So we already discussed the Jacksonville-Denver game. That's your I'm a Survivor pick as well. So I think it's time for you to flip the script, Mr. Watkins.
Okay. We didn't have any necessarily, big rivalries on our end, but you know what it always means when it gets close to Halloween.
World's largest outdoor cocktail party.
Mm-hmm.
Or
Although
the game formerly known as the world's largest outdoor cocktail party.
Well, I will say, as far as rumblings with that, while it is a bit more muted this year for, reasons, it's good to know that with Kirby Smart, he made a U-turn. He made a U-turn as far as wanting to keep the game here in Jacksonville, because as the current situation stands, the contract is to 2023, so next year, with the option to extend it to 2025. So there are the usual rumblings ahead of a contract year, but those rumblings have been kept quiet because Kirby will be able to get his recruits at the game without any issues.
See, I think it works out well for it to actually be in Jacksonville for both schools. And the reason being is Jacksonville's kind of a middle ground for Atlanta and Gainesville. Granted, it's on the south side of the Georgia-Florida border, But with Florida being in the with Gainesville being in that upper peninsula part of Florida over there going towards Louisiana, and then Atlanta being towards the bottom of Georgia, it almost feels like this is kind of a more direct neutral field than most of the neutral field places that a lot of these games get played at.
Yeah, and for a mild correction, and this was a similar mistake that we made, Athens, not Atlanta, because
Athens, Georgia. Yes, that's correct.
Georgia Tech. So you're about a little over hour and a half, almost 2 hours from Gainesville to Jacksonville, and roughly 3.5 hours from Jacksonville to Athens. So, as you said, about the best middle ground that you can get between the two.
A slight travel edge to the University of Florida, but drivable distance for both teams.
Oh, and RV City shows that every year.
Florida, Georgia's 7-0, the number one ranked team in the country. The team that put an absolute beating on Oregon to start the season. But a team that has struggled against SEC competition this year, specifically South Carolina and Missouri.
True.
Florida is 4-3, coming off of a bye, but also coming off of a loss in Death Valley. An LSU team that, if I'm not mistaken, didn't they just waylay somebody last week too? Mississippi State.
They did.
Well, no, Ole Miss. Sorry.
Yeah, Ole Miss. I believe
the number 7 team in the country. LSU beat them. So that loss doesn't look as bad as it did when it happened, because that was a pair of 4-2 teams going into battle when Florida played LSU, and then LSU beat Florida and then went around and beat the number 7 team in the country, a previously to that point undefeated Ole Miss Rebels team. 22.5. That's too much. That's just disrespectful. I'm not going to say the Gators are going to win this game, because we're not. I'm a realist. But Georgia's not 22.5 points better than Florida. This Florida team has been very scrappy all season, even in their losses. Somebody said something that chimes into what I just said. Oh, no, I agree. I think Georgia wins. But I don't think 22.5 happens. I could see this as a 2-score game. I could see this as maybe a 3-score game up to 17. But I think these Gators keep this closer than people are expecting. Even if Georgia does win. I take it you don't feel that way.
I may or may not discuss those specifics a little bit later. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Dramatic Doggo informs me that you can politely go fornicate yourself forthwith.
I mean, granted, I have been trying to catch up on content on another site, but that's again for point of viewer.
All right, let's move over to the other one of my college teams.
Yeah, speaking of Manny Diaz, and now his new stomping grounds.
Well, the Minnesota game went as anticipated. Homecoming with the whiteout in Happy Valley, and the Golden Gophers got golden curb stomped 45-17. And now Happy Valley welcomes Ohio State. Jesus Christ, Erik.
I don't make the schedule, okay?
No, I have 2 favorite college football teams, Florida and Penn State. This week, they play the number 1 and number 2 ranked teams in the country. FMMFL. Do the math, folks. You'll figure it out.
Yeah. A similar level of optimism, question mark?
No, Ohio State's going to boat race us. This Buckeye team is way too good for Penn State, especially after what happened to Penn State against Michigan 2 weeks ago.
Speaking of Michigan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens in the showdown this year. I think you guys got to go to the shoe, though, because they came to the big house last year.
Yeah, although they're a little bit less worried as they got Michigan
Sparty.
State. Yep.
Yeah, Michigan plays Sparty. The line for that game, I think it's a 3:30 kick on Fox, if I'm not mistaken. Isn't it a 3:30 kick on? It's the 7:30 ABC National. Who the fuck booked that?
What? No. No. Why? Oh, wait, no. I get it. Direct competition against Game 2 of the World Series.
Aha. Yeah, nobody's going to watch it anyway. Well, I mean, Toby will, but Toby will be about the only one.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Just keep it close, Penn State. It's what I'm hoping for. Don't lose by 24 again. Don't get embarrassed on national television again. Please. Thank you.
Now, you do have some legitimate optimism when it comes to your NFL team. The
real quick.
preview that many thought they were,
Real quick, Ryan Suckup field goal 17-13 Baltimore. Baltimore has the ball. Another catch by Likely. 11 minutes and 22 seconds left in the fourth quarter. Continue.
Damn, I should have picked Likely as my tight end. But a matchup that many were seeing as a Super Bowl preview, probably not going to be that prescient anymore, given one side of this matchup.
If I'm not mistaken, I think this was my Super Bowl projection. Going back to our NFL preview a couple of weeks ago, back when we did right before the regular season started, I'm fairly certain I said Bills-Packers in the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
It is a Sunday night in Orchard Park, New York, just outside of Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
On a related note, fuck Billy Joel. Don't know if I've told you that story. We'll explain it off air.
Okay.
And the Packers come in sub 500 to take on a Buffalo Bills team coming off of a bye week. Oh, boy.
It'll be Sunday night, and we all know what that means.
Sunday night's all right for fighting. So here's my hope for this game, because I actually talked about this when we did our game-by-game preview during our NFL preview.
Mm-hmm.
This is an opportunity for Buffalo to overlook Green Bay. And the reason I say that, I'll explain off air. If you get here in time, you can find the story. If not, you'll have to hear it another time. Coming off of a huge win against Kansas City and Arrowhead.
Mm-hmm.
After beating the shit out of Pittsburgh and Buffalo the week prior.
Mm-hmm.
Avenging 2 losses from last season that stung. The week 1 opener loss to Pittsburgh. The divisional round, technically, I guess it was a divisional round.
Yeah, this last year was the divisional round.
2 years ago, it was the AFC Championship game.
Correct.
This year, it's probably the AFC Championship game. Bills-Packers was the Super Bowl preview for many. If this is any inclination of the game that would have been, look out. This is a Bills team that is ready to play and knows it has to keep the quality up because somehow the Jets are still right on our ass.
At least that will stop the comments from being inundated with Billy Joel puns now that you said that.
Hello, 6-1. Goodbye, Green Bay.
Yeah, I mean, Alan Lazard out. Aaron Rodgers pissed off. Coming off of a loss to Washington of all teams. I'm sorry. I'm not going to go as far as saying Bills by $1 billion, but Mafia shows up and shows out on primetime games.
Not to mention, it is All Hallows Eve in Buffalo. If you don't expect that some strange shit is going to go down, we can only hope the strangest of that is not a Bills loss to the Packers.
I mean, not wrong. Hopefully, that isn't also a foreshadowing for any light poles that need to be greased in Philadelphia. A few days later, just saying.
Oh yeah, Philly and Houston. Kind of ironic that those two are playing each other in football right as the World Series should possibly still be going on as well between the two cities.
Uh-huh.
Who booked that finish? Refunds. I demand a refund. All right. We're done pouring one out for the homers. Are you serious? Interrobang. And, well, I got good news and I got bad news, Eric.
Okay.
The good news is I think you actually won the week on point differential.
Barely.
Well, I mean, in fairness, I sucked.
I mean, even against the spread, you weren't too bad. You just wound up taking some big numbers and going anti-homer. I did not expect to help me that much. Then Tampa Bay happened.
Yeah, I lost 7 for Maryland. Ironically, both of my underdogs won straight up.
Mm-hmm.
And then both of my favorites, one of them won but didn't cover. The other one lost outright. So, overall on the season, in terms of straight up matches, I am up 4 weeks to 1 on Erik. We've tied on 3 weeks. Against the spread, I'm up 5 weeks to 1 on Erik. We've tied 2 weeks. Weekly point differential, we've each won 4. Let's see what week 9 has in store for us, shall we?
Yeah. Oh Lord.
Are we going college or are we going NFL to start?
Let's go NFL to start so I can wrap up with college. And you said that earlier, 4 safeties.
You do realize what that look was for, right? I just saw your picks for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
You son of a bitch. All right, let's go. Let's start in the NFL then, since you want to wrap up with college. My underdoggy dog for the week in the NFL. It's a state rivalry, an in-state rivalry.
Mm-hmm. A Keystone Showdown.
Don't get me wrong. I think Pickett has potential in Pittsburgh. Try saying that 5 times fast. Philadelphia is clearly the better team. Although this point spread hurts. $11 points better than anybody. I mean, granted, the Giants are once again underdogs this week because apparently Vegas has no faith in them. But if this were Philadelphia-Houston, I could understand this 11-point differential, even though Dameon Pierce, the former Gator, has been killing it with the Texans this year. Philadelphia is not 11 points better than Pittsburgh. Give me the Steelers plus 11 against Philly. I don't think Pittsburgh wins, but I don't think this is more than a 1-score game.
Now, yours is a current, actual in-state rivalry. Mine used to be a fairly local rivalry. 1 train stop approximately half hour apart. Although, because for some reason, one of those teams was in the Western Division and Western Conference, they didn't play each other that often. Times have changed. Names have changed. Owners are thankfully about to change. But
seriously, after we get rid of Snyder, can Irsay be next? Okay, maybe Snyder, Jones, Irsay.
Jones, he can hand it down to his kid, and I'll be fine with that. Now, times aren't that great in Indianapolis, thankfully. They've had a curse of quarterbacks wearing the number 2 the last couple of years. Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan. 2 and 2 adds up to 4, which is the number of debutant quarterback Sam Ehlinger. I get that Washington isn't really the best, but you give a guy like Carson Wentz a legitimate chance against one of his old teams in shambles. I like those odds. Give me the Redacteds +3 against the Colts.
Duvernay scores 6. Tucker adds the 7th. Baltimore 24-13. And on behalf of all of us here at the Broadhurst-Watkins Sports Report,
I mean, technically, weren't you the one to pick Tampa Bay?
I don't care. I'm still happy.
Okay, that works.
Seeing Brady lose warms the cockles of my heart. As mentioned earlier. So my favorite for the week in the NFL, as I go back to the sheet, man, I'm all about the in-state rivalries this week, aren't I?
Yes, you are.
And ironically enough, both of them within reasonable proximity to each other.
Yes, they are.
One in Pennsylvania, one here in my home state of Ohio.
Right next door.
This is a Cleveland Browns team that could give away a game leading by 10 with a minute left to play. You know how I know that? Because it happened earlier this season. This is a Cincinnati team that is just starting to get its shit together and is going to need to keep up this pace, especially with what's happening on Thursday Night Football. The Bungles are 3.5-point favorites against Cleveland. That's all day. And twice on Sundays.
Sorry, Brownie the Elf. It's still not you.
Oh, no, it's definitely you. It's you and your disaster of a franchise.
You know how I am about particular quarterbacks?
Oh, that's DPI. Yep, there's the flag. Tampa Bay looking at a 1st and goal here off of a defensive pass interference call. Harbaugh, not happy, but the defender was not playing the ball there and put his hands on the receiver.
Yeah, and when you look at a round like that, barely even turned, that's legit.
Grabbed him by the face mask as well. Oh, yeah, that's DPI. Continue. Sorry. 24-13 still, but Tampa Bay's about to have a 1st and goal.
You know how I am about certain quarterbacks and how they've stolen money repeatedly from certain franchises? You know how I am about certain quarterbacks who play well at certain times of day?
You're not.
What time is the Minnesota-Arizona kickoff?
That would be 1 p.m. Eastern.
1 Eastern, high noon Central. Hi, Kirk Cousins. Vikings -3.5 over the Cardinals. Hey, to be fair, this is a very long weekend, and Kyler Murray will have plenty of hours with the new Call of Duty game. So there's at least that.
I need him to wage modern warfare on the field. He's my starting fantasy quarterback.
I know that was still very well played. Yeah,
I'm
sorry. You put Kirk Cousins in a 1 p.m. Eastern game. It's not automatic, but damn close. I don't care what you say.
And Minnesota does have a division lead to protect, as shit as that division may be elsewise. What are the Vikes? 5-1 or 4-2?
5-1, I think.
Yeah, I know they lead the division by like 2.5 games. So yeah, that would put them at 5-1 because the Pack are 3-4. The Pack and the Bears are 3-4, and then the Lions are 1-5. Ironically enough, Dan Campbell was sad this week as well because he gave Kyler Murray his friend tag on Xbox One, and Murray hasn't added him to play Call of Duty yet.
I mean, hey, man's trying to get to 10th prestige. He ain't got time to talk about biting kneecaps.
Touchdown, Tampa Bay. Holy shit, Orton.
Okay, little bit of squeaky bum.
Nope. No squeaky bum. Holding. Offense. 10-yard penalty. Repeat 3rd down.
Ha!
Take it off of the board. All right, let's move over to college football, shall we?
Yep, as I'm being applauded for my different setups there. And yes, we are going to remind you about your Lions.
Hey, you've got Michigan. Be happy with them. Your NFL team sucks.
Exactly.
One has to be good. One has to be shit so the other can be good. Look at the Buffalo quarrel. The Bulls are garbage so the Bills can be excellent.
But to be fair, blue collar you on the basketball court, Buffalo Bulls alumni did win the basketball tournament last year.
Good for them. Speaking of basketball tournaments, segue! Next week is the 2022/23 NCAA College Basketball Preview Edition on the All Sports episode of the Broadhurst-Watkins Sports Report. In addition, we'll also talk NBA as well. I have made it very well known that I am not as big of an NBA fan as I am college, but I follow reasonably well enough to make informed predictions. And hey, my Jazz are 4-1, so, can't be salty about that right now.
And there might be a special guest on that particular episode. Stay tuned to our various media outlets for updates.
Dun, dun, dun. This is dramatic doggo to a co-host.
I may or may not be inquiring about some connections that I've recently made. Stay tuned.
Very well. Speaking of colleges, let's go over to the college half of Are You Serious? Interrobang.
Well,
I'm going first here, and the reason being is that way we can close on your garbage ass pick.
Okay.
I got a doozy for you for my underdog this week. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Kentucky +12 against Tennessee.
Talking about rivalries in states that border each other. The Kentucky Fried Chicken versus the pan it's cooked in.
Tennessee is coming off of the huge high of beating Alabama. And then if I'm not mistaken, wasn't UT off last week?
I'm going to check. They may have been.
I don't believe number 3 Tennessee played last week.
I'm checking once my computer cooperates.
While he checks that, Tennessee 7-0.
Oh no, they did. In-state rivalry.
UT Martin.
Yep.
UT Martin. That's right. I forgot about that. The FCS opponent. Although I will say this much, projected FCS playoff participant UT Martin as of right now. Anyways, back to my statement here. Tennessee is coming off of a huge win against Alabama, and then what may as well have been a bye week against UT Martin. They are coming in with shades of 1998 dancing in their heads. And what happens when you start thinking about past glories? You get lost in the present.
And especially with a certain matchup next week against Georgia.
I don't know that Kentucky wins this game. As I was just about to say, I don't know that Kentucky wins this game. But there is a massive look ahead here for UT that I would not be surprised at all if Kentucky keeps it close. Give me the Wildcats plus 12 against the Volunteers.
Well, we talked about one set of schools in bordering states and regional rivalries. I got one of my own. However, you would say one bottom 10 regular versus a team that, for all intents and purposes, could easily be in the bottom 10 this season.
With thanks to Ryan McGee and apologies to both Steve Harveys.
You know I love the service academies. You know I love the triple option. But for something like this, even though it's a battle of 2 and 5 teams, usually that's very, very close. And now that Matt Rule's got nothing to do, I'm sure he'll be probably begging to get his old job back. Give me Temple plus 13.5 against the midshipmen. I can see Navy winning, slowing down the game, but I don't see them being 2 touchdowns better given the way that this season has gone.
So both of my NFL predictions were in-state rivalries.
Mm-hmm.
This may as well be an in-state rivalry because both of these states are so goddamn small.
And yeah, relatively. I mean, they are still like right next door to each other.
Mm-hmm. I spent a decent amount of time in one of these states over the course of this past summer, as a matter of fact, as well as for the Apple Harvest Festival back in fall. I saw that. I'm choosing to ignore it. I guess you could say I was going to Connecticut, and then never mind. Family show. Point being, speaking of the bottom 10, Connecticut's football team is not good. I broke Erik. They are 3-5. But to be fair, that 3-5 as an independent consists of games against other bottom 10 participants: New Mexico State, Hawaii, Nevada, amongst others. Boston College is 2-5. Boston College is coming off of getting their shit rocked by Wake Forest, which our very own Mr. Watkins predicted. I believe the word used for a game like this is bounce back. I will take the Eagles minus 7.5. Or plus 7.5, sorry. Over the Huskies.
No,
minus 7.
Yeah,
minus
7.5 since it's
they're
your lock.
they're giving Connecticut 7.5. Folks, this is a 3-score game, easy. UConn is nowhere near as good as that 3-5 record indicates. I promise. All right, let's fight.
Now look, I know everything you said about Georgia and particularly SEC competition and dealing with the SEC East. I get that. I get that entirely. However, when you got guys like Vince Dooley hanging around, smiling, when you got your angle as far as getting top recruits to your game, when you got Tennessee coming up that you want to dispatch, Kirby Smart sends messages. He sends big messages. That's why he is the first coach since Dooley to win a national championship at the vaunted University of Georgia. I know you have your doubts and at times which AR-15 shows up, but I've been down here in the thick of it as I get the ellipses and then some from John. I get it entirely. Knowing what I know and seeing what I see, I think if anything this week, knowing the polls, knowing that adversity, knowing Tennessee is coming up, they are going to put some mandatory fear into the Volunteers. I'll even put that full screen for you. Yeah.
I'm sending a message of my own.
I mean, yeah, John over here hoping his Gators bowl game isn't in jeopardy. Gators have a fourth whammy coming their way, and they're going to be out of the winning record club. And it ain't going to be pretty. This isn't just going to be a whammy. This is going to be the old school, all new pressure lock double whammy, where not only are you going to lose your winning record, but Georgia's going to come out and mess with you a lot. I know 22.5 is a big number, but I have had some share of luck at big numbers. And with this one, I see it. How about them dogs? Minus 22.5.
You ready for me to make the show topical? I'm going to have you escorted out of here like you were Yee at Skechers.
Oh, what? Are you giving me the Hu Jintao treatment? Okay, I get it.
I'm actually giving you the Vince McCary treatment.
You mean you're basically looking and telling me,
Yes!
Something like that.
And yeah, they roll a 7 and they get just what they need to shut the box.
I think Florida covers. I don't think Florida wins, but I think Florida covers.
We'll see.
35-24 Georgia.
45-17. I'll give you 17, and especially at some like garbage time.
You realize that was the Penn State Minnesota score.
¿Por qué no los dos?
I'm about to hop on the road to El Dorado out of here.
See?
At 2, Nielsen. At 2.
Let's just say that game's not going to get a good rating on the November edition of Nielsen ratings.
I can't even with the whole lot of you. The hat has come off, people. It's getting serious. It's also getting kind of sweaty. It's warm in here. Oh, did you notice the shirt I'm wearing?
Oh. Ooh.
Abbey Road with the Liverpool.
Yeah. Nice.
I approved. We put a beating on Ajax yesterday. 3-0.
Yeah.
At Ajax, too.
Yeah, Ajax ain't the same without Ten Hag. Thankfully, United isn't the same with Ten Hag. We're getting there.
I thought, oh, yeah. The good news is, I think after what happened against Nottingham Forest, I think they realized that Champions League is the way to focus now. Losing 1-0 at Nottingham Forest, because that's a thing that happened. The point being is at least Champions League is definitely looking like a round of 16 qualification, and a hope to stay in Champions League next year, which is probably going to have to come through winning Champions League this year.
I mean, if you get to avoid Real Madrid, I can see it happening.
We'll have to see what happens there. The only other thing that I really wanted to touch on here, since we're not doing an all sports episode, tomorrow, Friday, recording this Thursday night, as per usual, like we always do here, 24-16 Baltimore, by the way, everybody. As we record this here on Thursday night, tomorrow night is game 1 of the World Series. Philadelphia Phillies versus the Houston Astros. And Erik, let me tell you, I have never been rooting more for an earthquake in my life. That's right. San Francisco, Oakland reference, everybody. Kick it back to 1988.
89.
I was 3. The point being is that I hope they both lose. But officially Astros in 6.
Now,
bing!
What do the 2007 Rockies, 2014 Kansas City Royals, and 2022 Houston Astros all have in common?
Can I buy a vowel?
They were the last 3 teams to sweep their division series and their league championship series in the same year. Not only has no team ever swept through a series of a postseason of 3 or more series, but do you remember what happened to those 07 Rockies and 14 Royals?
I believe they both lost.
They did. The Red Sox ended Rocktober with another ring in a sweep of their own. And the San Francisco Giants did what they did in even years to start the 2010s in winning a championship.
You're taking Philadelphia, really?
I'm sorry. The Cardinals? Did they not win the World Series in 2006 with less than 90 wins? As much as I love you, Mattress Mac, that the largest legal betting payout in sports betting history here in the U.S., that has got to wait. Be glad you sold that glut of furniture. Grease up the light poles, baby.
Correct me if I'm wrong, by a single game, this would break last year's Atlanta's record as the fewest regular season wins for a World Series champion.
Because the Braves won
88 last year.
So, yeah, Braves won 88, and the Cardinals also won 88.
I believe
back in 06.
I believe the Phillies won 87 this year. 87 or 86, if I'm not mistaken.
I will confirm that.
Because I'm almost certain Atlanta last year was 88 and 74.
Going to confirm. Doodly-doo. Yep, they were 87 and 75 this year.
And if I'm not mistaken, the Braves were 88 and 74 last year.
88 and 73. A very similar, unique quirk.
Had a rain out that never got made up because it wasn't necessary. Oh, excuse me. Baltimore field goal has us at 27-16. Tampa Bay has to score twice in 1 minute and 41 seconds.
Oh, no. We're actually... Yep, I was wrong. The Cardinals actually did a lot worse that year that they wound up winning. Oh, hold on. I'm going to go back to that, but...
We're going to have to run that back next week for everybody.
Definitely. But yeah, you're still looking at around right about... Nope! I was right. Because when the Cardinals beat the Tigers in 06, they only went 83 and 78.
So what you're telling me is the NL Central sucked that year. All right, so it would be the second fewest wins for a World Series winner ever.
Mm-hmm.
How does that make you feel, Los Angeles, having won 110 and getting knocked out in 4?
I mean, didn't y'all win 101 yourselves?
That was different. Phillies cheated. It's
mean,
Philly.
at least when my team wins 100 games, we go to the World Series, but that's been a while for y'all, so.
As of right now, we're still the defending World Series champions. So I'm going to enjoy these last however many days this series takes to take that crown. But odds are probably by the time we reconvene next week, it will be close to, if not decided. And we will have new champions of Major League Baseball. Are we going to stick around for the last minute and 15 of this game?
We can, since we're running early, and I haven't heard a peep out of standards and practices yet, because I know he's going to want to get going, because tonight is going to be a deep, deep dive into the World's 2022 semifinals.
And that's this weekend, right? With an on-location thing?
Correct. Andesian himself will be live at State Farm Arena in Atlanta. I almost said something else, but I am going to Washington redact that. And yes, we will be having some sort of live coverage Saturday and Sunday.
Why are you throwing 4-yard in patterns with a minute to play in the fourth quarter?
Well, I mean, that's a good question. They needed to be further out towards the sideline like they did previously. I am not a big fan of this strategy.
4th and 13. If they score, that's what we need. I'm telling you, 4th and 13 needs to be a thing.
And it should be a thing, but oh no, they went ahead and they voted against it.
All the more reason to get rid of Goodell. Oh, what a defensive play. Well done. Who was that? 14, Hamilton.
Well, it's not just Goodell. That didn't even pass through the competition committee.
Well, fuck them too.
Exactly. So that's with a lot of the coaches on that committee.
On a related note, make the sky judge a thing already, NFL. Come on.
You're one saying, oh, referees, and we don't want to have them have too much control. Microsoft can do something with the Skycam footage. They won't necessarily miss the extra Surface tablet.
You've got enough of those Surface tablets on the sideline, at least 2 or 3 of which are getting broken by Brady a game at this rate anyway.
And the ones that were getting previously broken by Belichick before that, so.
Man, something in the New England water. I think they're just pissed off from living in Massachusetts that long, honestly.
Yeah, it does wear on you.
Touchdown, Buccaneers, flags on the play, but that might be from defensive holding. Although Brady does not look amused.
When does Brady look amused?
The flag is on the defense, touchdown Tampa Bay, 27-22. I assume the Bucs go for 2 here.
Yep, go for 2, 5-point game, make it a field goal, onside kick.
Speaking of scoring, did you ever check that 43-38 NFL scoregami deal?
While we do have a little bit of a lull, I can go to the site to see if that would be.
And then worst case scenario is if the onside kick isn't converted here, we can just sign off from there because that would be ball game anyway.
40.
Run, Tom! Oh, they're going to get that over because I think they're going to call. Illegal contact on Baltimore here.
Actually, no. 43-38 would not be an NFL scoregami.
When was the most recent iteration of that score?
Oh,
it should be right on the chart, sir.
Well, I know, but they have it. Well, the way that I have it set is to where that game happened. So I have to go ahead and set that to the latest game to see if it's the same.
And yes, they are calling illegal contact on the defense there. So Tampa Bay redoes the 2-point try from the 1.5.
Yeah, well, either way, it happened just the once. November 23rd, 1969, Week 10, a battle between the New Orleans Saints and the San Francisco 49ers at Tulane Stadium. New Orleans took the victory.
There you go. 2-point run attempt is stuffed. 27-22 still. Handoff was to
White. That the way that they were stacking the line, that run did not have a chance.
Yeah, they should have audibled out of that there. Clark in there immediately. Stone cleaned it up. So I have a question. Would this be an accounts and descriptions of this game that we're doing right now?
Not technically. ... Question mark.
I think we're okay. We're not
Yeah.
having any. We're not having any copywritten footage here on the broadcast, so I think we're fine.
Oh yeah, we're good for that, and everything's on mute, so no sound leaking through.
Although I will say I would much rather prefer to do the Sunday Night Football game on mute, so that way I didn't have to listen to Chris Collinsworth
Now there's a guy.
that I don't want to listen to. It's the anti-icing the kicker. They call it timeout before the onside kick. I guess technically that would be a form of icing the kicker before an onside kick, wouldn't it?
I mean, somewhat, yes, but there's not a lot you would have to think about as far as the mechanics with the field goal with that rush compared to an onside kick, especially since he already knew what angle he had the ball laid down on the ground to try to tilt that particular direction.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Is that Tampa's punter doing the onside kick?
Yes.
Well, it doesn't matter because he squibbed it right to likely. A likely finish to this ball game indeed, Eric.
See, the fact that he readjusted instead of having the ball on the ground at a lower angle, he did that. You got to learn physics, man. Again, as you said, 4th and 13.
Literally kicked it right to him. Likely shortstop gobbled it.
Oh, yeah. And the fact that he had a little bit too much velocity on it, and none of the Bucs players could catch up in time.
At Not a Network Pods on Twitter, twitch.tv/AWP podcasts. Search for Not a Network Pods on YouTube, or specifically search for the Broadhurst-Watkins Sports Report. He's at Squid Sportshead. I'm at HEB the Eagle. For the DSDO, the Anchorman, the HNIC of AWP Podcast Division, Eric Watkins, I'm the voice of reason. Allegedly. My name is Harry Broadhurst, thanking you for listening to this week's episode of the Broadhurst-Watkins Sports Report.
Sports in black and white.
We'll see you guys next week for Philly and Houston, where we'll talk about pretty much anything but the game, which will probably be a blowout. Bye, Felicias. Talk to you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Broadhurst-Watkins Sports Report. Sports in black and white. A presentation of the Not a Network Podcast Network. Available online via most major streaming services.